Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and today I am driving the 2026 Mazda CX-5 Premium Plus. Up front is a 2.5 liter inline 4, and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be doing this review for two reasons. First of all, the CX-5 is all new for the 2026 model year. This is the biggest update to the CX-5 that we've seen since the previous generation started in 2017. So it was due for an update, and I finally get to try it out today. The second reason is that I don't want to say I'm the most qualified to be reviewing the CX-5, but I have only ever owned Mazda products myself. I've talked at least 5 people in my normal life into buying CX-5s, and the CX-5 is the top seller for the Mazda brand. And so today, we're going to be seeing if this is a good update or if they screwed up one of their bests. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. Last but not least, huge thank you to Napleton Mazda of Naperville for letting me borrow this CX-5 for today's video. More on them towards the end, but if you'd like to browse their inventory, you can do so down in the description below. But let's get back to that 2.5 liter inline 4 under the hood. Well, that is actually not a new engine. That is a carryover from the previous generation. It still makes 187 horsepower, it's still naturally aspirated, and as of now, there is no turbo available for the CX-5. Now, if I had $100, I would bet all of it on the fact that a turbo is coming down the line. But currently, no turbo available. The only drivetrain is this 2.5 liter and this 6-speed automatic. Like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed automatic transmission. And again, this is a carryover. So the drivetrain of the CX-5 isn't new. And I honestly think that that's a very good thing, because sometimes when companies debut a new engine or new transmission, there's some teething issues and it cuts down on reliability. Well, because this is already a several-year-old engine and drivetrain, there's no teething. It's going to be reliable, and the 2.5 liter Skyactiv engine is wickedly reliable. I have done 120,000 miles in my own personal car with this engine, no issues at all. Napleton Mazda actually has a customer that has over 300,000 miles on one of these engines with no maintenance required besides oil changes and tires. So it is a long life engine. NA is always the way to go. I've never felt the need for more power, and so this drivetrain as a whole is very, very good. Last but not least, the CX-5 is actually only available in all-wheel drive. The previous generation, you could find them in front wheel. They were actually pretty rare, so they cut that option to just maintain the all-wheel. How does it feel to drive the new CX-5? It's great. Nothing was lost in the transition. I still think that the CX-5 is the best handling vehicle in this segment at this price point. The only vehicle I think drives a little bit better is the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. However, that's about 15 grand more, and it's an Alfa Romeo. So as much as you like driving it, I hope you enjoy driving it to the shop, because they are horribly unreliable. This, on the other hand, is very reliable, which is great to see. The steering feels a little bit lighter than the previous generation. I don't have hard facts on that, but just in my arms, it feels lighter. Throttle response is still great, and blind spots aren't too bad for an SUV. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior, because this is where you'll notice the biggest changes. And before we talk about what's in front of me, let's talk about this interior as a whole. The CX-5 is now offered with a tan interior. Never before have they done this color scheme on the interior. So I love it. I think it brightens up the interior and really makes it feel more luxurious than just a black on black sort of boring interior. Really, really love the tan. But in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster, all new for the CX-5 this year. And unlike anything that I've seen in other Mazdas, I have the tachometer to the left, fuel to the right, speed, of course, all of that info. And you can cycle through some information as well using one of the steering wheel buttons. On the steering wheel, off to the left, we have our volume and skip track, as well as play button, voice commands, phone options, and our, I guess, selector button, these sort of two windows. It looks like the screen mirroring logo. And off to the right, we have our My Drive system. So this is the different drive modes for sport, normal, and off-road. We have our adaptive cruise control, as well as we have our camera button. Absolutely wonderful to see a camera button on the steering wheel. I haven't seen any other company do this, and it is so smart, especially if you live in an urban area where parking can sometimes be a challenge. This is great. We also have our steering assist and mode button, and we have Mazda spelled out on the steering wheel now, which I think is a nice touch. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent. We have our warning sounds on and off, as well as our tailgate release. And moving on to the door, we have lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Moving into the center, we also get an all-new infotainment system, unlike any other Mazda right now. I'm sure this infotainment, this gauge cluster, and all these features will trickle down to other Mazda products, but it is fresh here for the CX-5. And a couple of things to note. First of all, this entire user experience is all new. New UI, new graphics, new everything. We do have a nice home app, as well as we have our app icons. We could take a look at our eye active sense, which is basically our safety features. We have this huge efficiency monitor. Really, really love that. And this is where our climate controls are ran through. Honestly, I don't find them that annoying. I think it works semi-well. I love physical climate controls, but if you're going to do digital climate controls, I think this does it very, very well. It hasn't been laggy, which has been nice. I don't like that fan speed takes 2 clicks. I wish I could just keep clicking the fan icon and adjust from there, but you have to click it and then slide it up. I don't really like that. But overall, this actually works a lot better than I thought. I do have 2 gripes with this infotainment. Is that one of the apps says iPod. This is a brand new car. They don't even sell iPods anymore, I don't think. So kind of a weird thing there. My second critique, and honestly the thing that makes me the most annoyed, is that there is no physical volume knob anymore. It is all digital, and I don't like that. I like being able to twist the knob to go from volume 10 to 30 in 0.2 seconds. The Corolla recently got rid of the volume knob as well. I'm not a fan of it in that car either, so that was a big disappointment. However, we do have a 360 camera. The cameras are decent quality, fine enough for a car like this. And so there it is. That is the new infotainment. Moving down the center, we do have our hazard switch, front and rear defrost. Those are physical buttons. Love to see that, with 2 climate vents. And then we have our cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the all-new CX-5 for the very first time. And it comes so incredibly close to passing, but it doesn't. So still a fail for the big friggin' bottle test. One thing I don't like about the cup holders, however, is that they actually move them in front of the shifter, and I find this just to be a little bit annoying. They used to be behind the shifter, which was easily accessible. My Mazda 3 has them in front of the shifter, and I don't like it, so a little annoying that they moved it up there. But then we do have the shifter, standard shifter, run-of-the-mill shifter. I'm surprised that they didn't use the CX-90's shifter, because that's kind of a newer style, but that also has the 8-speed automatic. This still maintains the 6-speed, so it gets the traditional 6-speed shifter. We have power parking brake and auto holding brake off to the right, and we have a wireless charger down below, as well as an opening center console with 2 USB-Cs in there. Now, the seats are very comfortable. They are heated, ventilated, power, and memory. They are great, and finished, of course, in this new tan color as well. I think they look fantastic, they operate well, and they're still very comfortable. I have spent hundreds of thousands of miles in the seats of Mazdas, and they've always been pretty comfortable, and that is the same case here for the CX-5. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, getting in the back of the all-new Mazda CX-5, and before we do anything, first of all, the tan seats do carry on back here as well. Absolutely love this new look. I think it's great. But stepping inside here, closing it up, we do have vents. Love to see that. We have heated seats as well as 2 USB-Cs, very modern. But the biggest thing, the biggest change here is the space. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me, and I fit a lot more comfortably than I did in years prior. So Mazda has actually lengthened the new CX-5 a little bit. I'll put up on the screen somewhere down there how much they lengthened it by, but most of that length goes into the back seat. So they were conscious of that. People complained about tight back seats, and so they fixed it. We also get to enjoy a nice moonroof. So this part does not open, that part does, but this is the first time that the CX-5 has gotten a large roof like this. Very, very cool to see and very spacious. Overall, like I said, this is like the biggest, best change that they did was add a little bit more space. It didn't make the CX-5 gigantic. It didn't make it this obtuse large SUV now. It still fits within the similar footprint, but they did add some interior space, which was a pretty common complaint by even people like myself. I never really felt that comfortable in the back of the CX-5 until now, 2026. So if you've never been happy with the back seat space of previous gen CX-5s, well, you might want to take another look here. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the CX-5, we do have a button right here under the Z. Easy for me to remember, but here we go. Now, obviously, we do have floor mats and kits for the first owner of this vehicle, the roadside assistance kit, things like that. So this is our storage space. We do have the same exact handles from the previous gen to lower the second row of seats. There we go. Now that would fold flat if I moved the driver's seat up a little bit, obviously, but you do get a flat loading floor, which is very, very nice. Oh, I forgot to mention with the back seats, you do have fold-down cup holders. Very nice to see that. I missed that on my first go-around. But anyway, coming back here, we do have a 12-volt outlet over here. I assume this is like a tire inflator kit, so that's probably what that is for. However, you can come under here, and you do get a spare tire. This also has the Bose sound system, so it comes with an extra speaker inside the spare tire, but you get a spare tire. Very, very cool. This feels very similar space as the outgoing CX-5, so I don't see visually a huge improvement, but I'm sure that there was. Again, with that lengthened chassis, I would imagine they put a little bit into storage. Come up here, you can lock the vehicle or just close it. We'll just close it here today. Nice, smooth, and it actually feels a little bit quicker than the outgoing CX-5, at least in terms of the door closing. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and of course, this is the other big change for the CX-5. They have changed up the looks, a lot more modern, a lot more angular. You know, it feels like it has harder edges than the outgoing CX-5 did, and I don't mind it. The front headlights are going to take a little bit of getting used to, but I think the back looks good. I like Mazda being spelled out on it, and I have to say this is one of the most boring colors of the new CX-5. Unfortunately, Mazda of Naperville had some Soul Red metallic ones. I'll show some on-lot footage here of some good colors, but I really wanted to drive the tan interior, so I had to make that sacrifice and drive a black one. I just don't think the black color really accentuates the design of the car all that well. I'm not a big fan of black on black cars as it is. It's not a CX-5 thing, it's just a preference thing. You do notice that it is slightly longer than the outgoing CX-5 as well, but as we mentioned with the back seats, that is a very welcome change. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the all-new Mazda CX-5? Well, I think they've done an incredible job with this car. I think they've updated the things that needed updating and kept the things that worked well. The engine and drivetrain are old, for sure, but that's a good thing. They're solid and reliable and they work well. So why go changing it? They could have thrown a 1-liter turbo 4 or 3-cylinder into this thing and maybe made it more efficient but slightly less powerful. They could have done a million things, but they didn't need to. They wanted it to be reliable from day one, and so here it is. I respect that. The things that they did change were the infotainment. The infotainment on the outgoing Mazda CX-5 was very, very old, and a lot of people complained about it. They didn't like how small and far away the screen was. The first half of that generation of CX-5 did not have a touchscreen. They later added that in 2022. So people these days, maybe not myself, but a lot of people want a big screen in their car. It makes them feel more luxurious, and so Mazda did that. They updated that. They updated the buttons. I love the camera button on the steering wheel. That's a welcome addition. They added some interior options, some color options. They added the moonroof, which is fantastic. And so sure, there are still going to be a few things that I'm going to have to get used to. I don't know how much I love the front end. I hate not having a volume knob, but other than that, this is a rock star. And I'm so incredibly happy to see that Mazda didn't completely throw the baby out with the bathwater, because this is their baby. And boy, was it time to get rid of the bathwater. So I think this is a very, very healthy upgrade. I do think it feels more like a very heavy facelift than like an all-new design, and I think that that's good. You know, when you go see your favorite band, you want to hear the new stuff, but you also want to hear a couple of the classics. If you're going to see Blue Oyster Cult, you're gonna want to hear Don't Fear the Reaper. And so that's the case here. That engine up front is Don't Fear the Reaper. It wouldn't feel like a Mazda without it. But, you know, they gotta sprinkle in some of the new stuff as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Napleton Mazda of Naperville for letting me borrow their CX-5 for today's video. I have to say, I normally say, oh, I recommend this dealer, blah, blah, blah. I actually bought my car from this dealership way back in the day, and the service has been nothing but top-notch. Anytime I bring it for an oil change, it's always wonderful. The showroom's always clean. Everyone inside is always very, very helpful. So if I could recommend any dealer the most out of all the dealers that I'm privileged to work with, Mazda of Naperville always hits it out of the park. They've been great to me. They've been great to my family and my friends. So huge, huge, huge thank you to Napleton Mazda in Naperville. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.